Okay, this is an ad lib audio to introduce the concept of the entire course. We have lots of different systems that are cued on the body. Chakra is one. Ours is reduced to a head, heart, and gut situation. And we've set the color scheme like so. And our idea is to first track the way most Enneagram studies proceed, which is using the head, heart, and gut on the full model to describe different types of people, the so-called head types, the heart types, and the gut types. To know more about what that means, then we start to parse each of these types through several different categories, and different teachers will use different categories, and already the confusion begins. So we'll start looking at each type, run it through the categories, and pretty quickly one realizes that trying to compare types across here while holding these categories in place is something of a difficult task. We are interested in the information that's on this chart here, but doing it all at once to some degree or another is what winds up being confusing, and often people stop at this stage of the game. So what we do next, though, is start to transition to another use of head, heart, and gut, with the idea that every one of the types has each of those energies inside. We all have bodies, we all have hearts, we all have heads. Pretty obvious, but during the course of the path through the model this way can get lost. So here we are back to putting them back together, and realize at this point that all of those discussions across these categories are indeed part of our considerations of individual types. So there's gut energies, there's heart energies, and there are head energies that are part of the three-dimensional model, if you want to think of it that way. The full depth occurs when those head, heart, and gut energies are parsed out and examined in a certain way and put onto a chart like this, is the way some of us do it. And once this charting is in place, we start to explore the dynamics between all of the different elements that we've defined and discussed over here. At that point, we're in common ground. Each of the types has each of these categories running for it, and we've completed head, heart, and gut internally and externally. The point of this course is that what if we went the other way first and took head, heart, and gut in terms of its commonality to all of the types, and start working the grid via a discussion of what those internal dynamics are. So we'd start with one of the gut energies. We'll get into what those are later, but self-preservation is the first. And what we do is we take a class in self-preservation, using examples from all the 9 types, but not focusing on the 9 types, focusing on what self-preservation means. So we're going to use the grid here not to parse the different types, but to parse what's common to all of the types. Starts to make sense, we hope. So we go through all of these elements, and since my animation only works that way, you'll see that each one of these classes will be on the topic of the category and not on the 9 different types. Although we'll be looking at the 9 types as we go, we won't be trying to hold a difference among them too heavily. The idea at that point, since we understand head, heart, and gut as they apply to each of the types, building the three-dimensional model really isn't as critical because we understand what we're doing. But we have to run through this animation because it's all the way set up already. The individual types are going to make more sense because we can hold what the categories are about as we talk about them. Once that's all built and all set up, may leave out this step on the final, then we can go back out to the big world and use the head, heart, gut themes to describe the differences amongst the types, which is its secondary use, or it becomes the secondary use in this approach to the model.